Pokemon's 2024 World Tournament has come and passed, and so the TCG's competitive players, they're looking forward to the new season, they're looking forward to new sets coming out, and they're looking forward to playing in new formats. But with Worlds, thousands of new people are introduced to the Pokemon TCG and have taken interest, and so when those new people are looking to build decks or take the cards from their collection and create something to start learning how to play, knowing where to start can be a very intimidating thing. And so there are a few ways you can start as a new player. You could log on to tcgplayer.com and buy the 60 cards that you need to build the deck that you saw at Worlds, and you can wait for those cards to come in the mail, and boom, like, you're good. But that takes all the fun out of buying products, opening packs, and seeing what you get. So today, I'm here to enlighten those of you who are still interested in finding your cards the hard way through ripping packs.
Please be something decent. It's the stupid reboot pod.
I've gone and ranked all 9 Scarlet and Violet Pokemon sets based on how playable they are. And so we'll be going down the rankings, starting at number 9, working our way all the way down to number 1. These rankings are based on the percentage of cards from each set that appeared on day 2 of the World Tournament. There were 127 players present, and so there were 127 decks, some of which were pretty much the same. But if a card appeared in any one of those 127 decks, and it's in a Scarlet and Violet set, it has contributed to these stats. Additionally, I did only use main set cards only, no secret rares. So any gold cards, illustration rare cards, full arts, special illustrations are not going to skew these stats, especially those baby shinies. And finally, I'll be highlighting some of the main prominent cards from each set as we go down the list, and some sets even kind of bring an X factor to the table, where they have an appeal beyond their playability, or maybe an appeal that contributes to their playability. But first, my name's Brett. My wife and I teach local kids in our library how to play the Pokemon TCG, and a lot of my YouTube content relates to pulling cards out of packs and doing my best to make a deck with them, and I'll link that series below in the description if you want to check it out. And that's the inspiration for making this video. Anyone can go on a TCG Player and buy their first 60 cards and have their deck ready to go, but sometimes the journey is the exciting part. Using the cards in your collection and cards that you rip from packs to make a deck and slowly improve it over time sometimes is a better way than just buying the best 60 cards you can and thinking you're going to know how to play that deck right away. But I think that's all you need to know for now, so we're going to jump into our list with number 9. Hopping in at number 9, maybe a surprise to some, but maybe not to others. The worst Scarlet and Violet set in regards to playability is 151. 151 came in at the bottom with 5 out of 165 main set cards being playable at Worlds Day 2, or just about 3% of the set. Mew EX is really the only card in that whole set vital to the meta. We all kind of knew that 151 was a collector's set and less of a player's set, but when only 3% of the cards are relevant, it's kind of a surprise to see how bad the whole set really is as far as its performance in the TCG. But the X factor of Pokemon 151 absolutely is that collectability factor. You've got all those illustration rares that are not only holding up their value, but are increasing in value. Finding 151 out in the wild at your local stores isn't very easy. You know, there may be reprints coming, but 151 could be the next Evolving Skies. It will be heavily sought after, the prices will stay high, and I don't see it dropping anytime soon. So buy 151 for the price value and for the nostalgia, not to play it. Coming in at number 8, again, probably not a surprise to anybody, but we've got Obsidian Flames at number 8. Obsidian Flames, of its 197 cards in the main set, has 8. that saw play at Day 2 in Worlds, or just over 4%. The key pieces to highlight in Obsidian Flames are the obvious Charizard EX, which has not dominated the meta, but it took over the meta for a little while and has remained relevant, as well as Pidgeot EX, which, is one of the best consistency cards in the game still. Beyond that, you've got Cleffa, which helps with some early game draw consistency. I think, if anything, Obsidian Flames deserves an anti-X Factor. This set is just terrible. It doesn't hold up its value because the special illustration rares aren't very difficult to pull, and they're not heavily sought after, and this set just has not maintained value in any way. So, Obsidian Flames, though more playable than 151, is probably the worst set in the Scarlet and Violet era, at least for now. Coming in at number 7, though, we have Paradox Rift, which made a big leap from Obsidian Flames. Paradox Rift has 16 out of 182 main set cards playable in World 2. Playable at Day 2 in Worlds, speaking is hard, or 8.8%. So we're getting up to the 10% range where the first 2 sets were 3 and 4. So it's a big jump. In Paradox Rift, we got the introduction to ancient cards and future cards, and the first set of trainers, supporters, and those Pokemon that help organize those decks and keep them strong and relevant in today's meta. As sets continue to release, we do see more of those future and ancient cards replace some of the original ones in Paradox Rift, but there are some, such as Roaring Moon and Iron Hands, that still have a pretty big share of meta play. Paradox Rift, though, doesn't really have an X factor. Some cards have some value, and it's got some things worthwhile as a collector and as a player, but overall, just kind of mid, which isn't so bad. Number 6, we're jumping in with Paldea Evolved. Paldea Evolved has 18 out of 193 main set cards in Day 2 at Worlds, seen in the meta, and it's just about a 0.5% higher than Paradox Rift at 9.3% of the set being playable. Paldea Evolved has some really high-end trainers and supporters, such as Arven, Iono, Boss's Orders, and Superior Energy Retrieval. It's got a lot of trainer cards that are seen in some in every deck, some in just a few specific decks. Paldea Evolved also has the Squawkabilly EX, which is played heavily in especially aggressive decks that are looking for that turn 1 attack. And it's also got Qianpao EX and Max Caliber, which, though it's kind of losing its notoriety, is still up there when it comes to playability and its competitive nature in the meta. But Paldea Evolved, being our number 6 set on the list, doesn't really have an X factor either, unless you want to count that Magikarp illustration rare, which is really single-handedly keeping the set afloat. Coming in at number 5 is Temporal Forces, with 19 out of 162, or 11.7% of the cards in the set being used in the meta. In Temporal Forces, we've seen the return of A-Spec cards, such as Prime Catcher, Hero's Cape, instantly being game-changing cards that are seen in almost every deck. It's also the continuation of Paradox Rift's Ancient and Future Pokemon, adding some newer pieces that strengthen the old archetype, or creating some cards that just have their own decks. The X factor to Temporal Forces is a partial Millennial fan service. The Millennial fan service I'm mentioning is the Ghastly illustration rare, which is still holding up its value, the Morty special illustration rare, where we've got Gengar, and a couple other illustration rares of early generation Pokemon that really got a lot of people interested in the set when the cards were first revealed. Moving officially past the halfway point, we are on to our number 4 set based on playability in the Pokemon TCG. Number 4 is Twilight Masquerade. Twilight Masquerade had 21 out of 167 main set cards played at Worlds Day 2, or 12.6% of the set. This set overall has the best A specs, and by best I mean it has the highest percentage of heavily played ace specs, and it's the introduction of the Ogre Pawns, 3 of the 4, which see regular play at Worlds. The 4th being the fire one. It's terrible. What can you do? And though it's not much of an X factor, the thing to note about Twilight Masquerade is its inconsistency with the performance of its special illustration rare cards, with the Ogre Pawns being heavily underwhelming, but redeeming itself with cards like the Greninja special illustration rare, Perrin, Carmine, Kieran, Lana's Aid. All those cards are holding up their value and are heavily sought after by collectors. Which leads us into our top 3. If you've been following along closely, you've probably narrowed down the last 3 sets that I haven't named. You may even have it kind of figured out where they're all going to fall on the list. But if you're not there yet, stick with me. Rounding out our top 3 is our probably least exciting set, Scarlet and Violet Base. Scarlet and Violet Base has 27 out of 198 main set cards played in the meta at Worlds Day 2, which equals out to 13.6% of the set. The main contributors of Scarlet and Violet are Gardevoir, there's been the emergence of Banette EX and Shuppet, but most of what people are looking for in Scarlet and Violet Base are the trainers. You've got Ultra Ball, you have Nest Ball, you have Great Ball, you have Professor's Research. There are so many trainers in this set that see regular play, and it laid a fantastic foundation for the rest of the Scarlet Violet era as far as playability. And with my top 3 and with the top 3 slot, Scarlet and Violet Base gets 2 X factors. The first one being that trainer selection. You could open an Elite Trainer box of Scarlet and Violet and probably get half of what you need to build a pretty good deck. X factor number 2 is the affordability of the set. With most Scarlet and Violet Base products being sold almost at distribution prices or well below MSRP, Scarlet and Violet Base is very easy to find out at your local stores, find online for good prices, and you can very easily build a good base for your deck by not breaking the bank with Scarlet and Violet Base. So moving into number 2, you may have noticed a trend with what's left in the 2 sets. Maybe not, but you're gonna find out anyways. The number 2 set, just coming into the fray, is Shrouded Fable. With 11 of 64 cards in the main set being playable in the TCG meta, or 17.2%, which is a huge jump from number 3, you've got Fezandipity EX, which has almost taken over Radiant Greninja's spot as the main draw engine of a lot of decks. Fezandipity really can slot itself into any deck. It can serve as an okay attacker for a 3 colorless energy cost, but that draw 3 anytime one of your opponent knocks out your Pokemon, it's a no-brainer. Fezandipity EX is changing the game and changing the way decks are built. Along with that, there's the beautiful Duskull line. There's Kyurem, which single-handedly erased Lost Box decks from the meta. Night Stretcher, and some other cards here and there that see regular play already. And though it's a small, special set with not a lot of main contributors, the X factor, I will say, would be the loyal 3, being Okidogi EX, Munkidori, Fezandipity, and the addition of Pecharunt. Those cards, in tandem, though they haven't risen to power yet. Risen to power? I don't know. I should know that. Though they're not in the meta yet, I think as the meta develops and grows and new sets come out, I think we will see an emergence of the Loyal 3 as a powerful deck to come. And so we're down to 1 set. If you know the Scarlet and Violet era, you know what's coming up. It's another special set. And our number 1 most playable Pokemon TCG set by percentage is Paldean Fates. Paldean Fates has 16 of 91 main set cards played in the TCG meta, or 17.6%, just above Shrouded Fable. The cool thing about Paldean Fates, though, is that it has reprints of most of the first 3 sets of the Scarlet and Violet era of just the playable cards. You have Charizard EX, you have Pidgeot EX, you have Gardevoir. There are so many cards that you could find in older sets that kind of suck in Paldean Fates, and you have better odds of finding them because of how small the set is. And so, with our number one set, there were a few X factors to kind of add more appeal to what Paldean Fates already is as a great set. Again, the first being the fact that it's pretty much the best of the first 3 sets combined as far as playable cards. The second X factor being the value of the special illustration rare cards and even some of the baby shinies in the set. The Mew, the Gardevoir, the Charizard, the Iono are all sought after valuable cards, whether you're a player or a collector. And third, and maybe the most fun X factor of the set, is the pull rates of the set. You're pulling cards kind of at a similar pace as Crown Zenith, which if you've opened Crown Zenith before, you know it's good. The fun of Crown Zenith is how often you find Vs, you find Galarian Gallery cards, which are like the new illustration rares. So Paldean Fates, you see a lot of hits. Maybe not always the best ones, but you see a lot of ultra rare, illustration rare, or baby shiny cards, and every now and then you see those special illustrations that make you all your money back. So now, with the information that you just absorbed, you can go out, you can buy some products of what you know are playable, and you can get your deck started the right way. Keep in mind, this is not the best way to build a deck because you can just go online, buy singles, and in about 2 weeks, you've got your 60 cards ready to go. But if you're looking to shop for someone who's recently gotten into the game, or you're really just looking to rip packs on your journey to building that deck, this is some good information. As for next week's set, being Stellar Crown, I anticipate that it's going to be somewhere in between Paradox Rift and Temporal Forces as far as playability. I think it's going to be close to 10%, where early playtesting and early results in Japan show that some of the cards are taking over the meta, but once you get past those handful of cards that are in the new decks, you don't see a whole lot. So my guess is that it's going to be in the 10 to 12% range. So let me know what you think. Let me know if there's something I missed. Let me know if this information helps. Thanks. See you in the next one.